Moobys. What burger is the best? Who's a friend of the duck who won't fly south? Put a movies in my mouth.
That sort of happened, and I guess he tried to move into a new phase. We got the Jersey Girl, which we don't need to dwell on, but I'm just going to say it's not as bad as people say.
No, and I think honestly that was more of a victim of basically the tabloid terror, right? Because
Yeah.
it's hard to think about now just because we're so deep into like this internet generation, how weirdly toxic the whole Bennifer thing was.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he was the first time that they got a nickname of a couple, like when they were shipping, you know, and they were like shipping wasn't a thing back then.
Right.
And that was just like the heyday of like tabloids.
Right.
And it's just like, and they were coming hot off of Geely, right? With Ben Affleck and J-Lo.
Which didn't do Jersey Girl any favors.
No. Oh, so I'd like to do a screening of that just to see how it feels without having that. Because basically, man, it's just like, how tough is it as an actor if people find out who you really are, and then you're like, ooh, like you can't get lost in the moment. Like everybody becomes Peter Griffin. That moment, it's like I'm acutely aware that I'm watching a movie right now, like not get lost in it. So just like it was probably hard to shake the whole Bennifer stuff because it was everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, just like it's 2021, and they're still talking about, hey, J-Lo just broke up, and guess what? She's been seen, you know, with Ben Affleck again, and I think people are having like PTSD of Bennifer, of just like, wait a minute, why do I feel weird about this?
I think people are happy about it.
Yeah, it's like maybe it's just like a form of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Of just having that.
Is it? That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Tabloid nostalgia.
Oh man, so it's just like, I'd be curious because it's just like, I mean, George Carlin was that too. It was basically he wanted to close the book on those characters, right? Even though it was still in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
He was just like, he's a Jersey guy. He wanted to do that. So I don't know. I don't remember much about it. I don't remember hating it. I don't remember liking it. I just remember like going to see it because I was just a huge fan of like of his work. But I don't remember anything about it either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might not be your cup of tea, but it's a nice movie. It's well shot. The acting is good. It's got a good cast. But anyway, that happened.
Yeah. And then, so this was an interesting point in his career, right? Because now, basically at that point, you feel like he was trying to get away from who he was and to see how his career was going to evolve next, right? And I think it was around this time that, I don't know if this was 2001-ish, when basically, you know, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, you know, because we already had X-Men in 2000s, like recreated, like realized that not since Superman 2 have people been this psyched for a superhero genre. They offered him the Green Hornet.
Oh, I remember when he was going to work on it.
Right, and this would have been a big, basically now a big budget studio tentpole.
Yeah.
And he was going to do it, and then he made that fork in the road choice, and then he chose not to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and then eventually I think it went in the direction of the Seth Rogen, right?
Yeah, I was listening to his podcast, and he was going over some of his old memories or whatever. He got offered like a lot of things that were big, and you remember them. Like I remember he mentioned he got offered the gig on A View from the Top, which is a Gwyneth Paltrow movie where she plays a stewardess.
Oh wow!
It was. I mean, that's a big movie at the time, you know. So he was getting big offers. I mean, he wrote Superman, right? He got offered Superman.
Right. Was that the Nick Cage one?
No. He wrote a script for Superman Lives, based off of. I'm not sure. I don't know the full story. You can check out his stand-up specials for that. But he wrote the script that got it over. Then they brought in Tim Burton, and he dumped his script.
And then he got rid of it.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, yeah, he was so cutting edge, right?
Yeah.
When it's just like, because obviously he was like,
because nobody was doing comic book stuff yet.
No. And ironically, it's like he was a comic book guy. You know, around that time, it's just like he was, you know, he opened up, you know, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash, right? It's just like he had his comic book store that, you know, and he grew up as a comic book collector, you know, and ended up later he turned in, you know, he pivoted and had Comic Book Men. He was doing a comic show, but he would have bought like technically like street cred, just like I was a comic book guy and I'm a director and I'm going to make a comic book film. So it's kind of ballsy for him to say,
This is he was a nerd way before it was cool to be a
oh
nerd.
yeah, I mean comic books and then the internet, right? It's just like he had the viewaskew.com before the internet was like
That's
really
true.
took off where it was.
Yeah.
So he was cutting edge. So it took some balls on his part to just like to shun away that money and just kind of stay true to his vision.
Yeah.
But I think, but what was his vision was the question, right? It's just like, because then after that, there's there's a small part of his chronology that we were talking about that I really didn't keep track of. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't see, like, as far as like Tusk and Red State
Yeah.
and Yoga Hosers. I did see Zach and Mary make a porno, which is basically the Judd Apatow universe crossing with the Kevin Smith universe.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right. But you can tell me more about those, those other films that I missed.
Yeah, I mean, Red State, you said you hadn't seen it, which I thought was
I didn't.
surprising, you being such a horror fan.
Yeah.
I think it's legit his best film.
Really?
I think it's his best film from a perspective of just like craftsmanship. I think that's his best film. I really can't talk about it much without spoiling it for you. Like I said, Michael Parks is awesome. There is one scene where Michael Parks does like a 20-minute monologue, and it sounds awful when I say it like that, but it all works. It's good, and there's something that happens at the end that I can't even. There's a little twist at the end that happens, and for a moment, you're just like, oh my god, this is brilliant.
Oh,
like the
man.
ending is brilliant, you know.
I just remember all I remember about it was the artwork, and I don't know if it was like a female's back to the wall, like holding a shotgun.
I think it was the George Bush years, so it was the rise of
okay.
right wing. So it's sort of based in that era.
Again, he was cutting edge. He knew
Yeah.
knew what was coming, right?
Yeah.
I really do want to see it. I almost feel ashamed that now all YouTube knows that I did not see it, and it's just like one of those movies because I feel like I grew up like watching every single movie that came out.
Yeah.
And now it's just like I feel like it's a chore to try to watch every single movie that comes
I know.
out, even though I want to.
Yeah, I know.
I want to watch every single.
It was strange. Remember the feeling being at the video store and trying to find something you hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that's impossible, man.
Yeah.
It's just like I can do it, but
You can't get
anyway,
through everything.
it's on the list.
Anyway, check out Red State, and then Tusk is good. I think the makeup kind of blows it up.
Interesting.
The makeup is not great, but the premise is good. The acting is great. Justin Long, Michael Parks again,
Yeah,
and for the
Justin
most
Long,
part,
yeah.
it works, and it's legit terrifying. Like I said, there's another scene where Johnny Depp just kind of comes in and they let him do whatever he wants for like 20 minutes.
Oh man, can you imagine?
So I think he's ad-libbing. It seems like it. But, maybe could have spent a little more budget on the walrus outfit. But for the most part, it's a good film.
It did? Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching. And then the other one was...
Yoga Hosers.
Yoga Hosers. Okay.
Yeah.
You could probably skip that one. I don't know.
I think I admitted slow. Like, I
It's-
feel like he didn't really, like, he almost admits, like, you can skip that one.
You could probably skip it. If you're curious, check it out. It's Tiny Sausage Nazis. Kevin Smith plays all the sausage Nazis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah. Oh, that was one of the reviews that I've heard of. I don't know if it was Clerks or he said somebody's review. It was like he was insulted at first, but then he appreciated it. It's like, well, what'd you think of the movie? It's like, well, you guys got it done. I was like, well, yeah, you did finish it. And he's like, at first I was like, what the fuck? But then he was like, oh, no, this is just like, okay, now I understand. Cause it's like,
That's awesome. I want to use that on somebody sometime.
it takes a village, right? So
Think of my movie.
yeah,
You got it done.
you got it done. But I think, that whole thing of just like with, when he made that pivot away from the Green Hornet and then he just accepted, I'm glad, I think it gave him longevity, right? That he chose to bet on himself and like, I'm not going to take the money and go with the studio films. I'm just going to go with basically me as Kevin Smith with these characters that I created and keep this View-esque universe alive so he can do things like this and he can continue to do that. And we're to the point where it's just like people are like, Like I think he even called his Clerks 2 Back to the Well.
Yeah, well, again, just he pretty much said or realized I have fans.
Yeah.
I have fans. I just need to appeal to them because they like my stuff.
That's all he needs.
And now you've got, with YouTube and everything, you've got so many channels where it's like, okay, I don't need everybody to like my video
Yeah.
on my channel, but if this tiny segment of this huge audience likes it, I'll be over.
Yeah. And I think it was great. I think it added to his career that like now he's basically is that icon. I mean, he basically he was the original influencer, right? He was the
Yeah.
original host where it's just like, Kevin Smith on IMDb hosting, a special for DC fandom.
Yeah.
And he's the one he has his own universe and he can cross universes and give that legitimacy. Like he can be at fandom and then he can also do an MCU special and legitimately talk about how important it is as a fan. Like he's almost like the fan that made that crossover.
Yeah.
That he can do that. So, and then go back and do the fan service and make something like Clerks 2, where, Mooby's was really at the forefront
Right.
of that. And it's just like, look, Clerks 2 is no Clerks 1,
No.
but I mean, it's super enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like
It's pretty good. I like it. Yeah.
I mean, I can't watch Lord of the Rings without thinking about Clerks 2. So he did something right.
Yes.
That's the equivalent of just like finger cuffs. It's just like, what's Lord of the Rings about? It's just about walking. Because like I think about that anytime they're walking about in Lord of the Rings, I think about Clerks 2.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it works. And so I think it was a smart move on him to bet on himself.
Yeah.
And
I think that movie gets better with age.
yeah, I think it's
flies.
it's aging really well. But I mean, it's just like now he's just like he almost like accepted his fandom with his fandom, and just like now he's just like, and he has a lot of directing movies in there, but he also directed TV shows. I mean, he did the Cop Out, with Bruce Willis.
Yeah, I
but
forgot about Cop Out with
Yeah.
Me Somewhere, which he's got a lot of funny stories about.
Yeah, and it's just like I think that's when he even got a little bit of heat with Bruce Willis. But then also it's just like then it gave him the ability to be in Die Hard, just
Yeah.
like Kevin Smith in Die Hard. But just like he did, like I think he directed an episode of Flash. He just really got in there. But eventually, as time went on, he just started really embracing the universe he created to the point where it's just like now it's 2021 and it was big. That was just last year where it's just like he turned the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, like he just basically not mocked, but it was almost like a love letter indeed. It was just like everybody's rebooting everything, but I'm gonna reboot my movie and make it about reboots, right, and just like and he didn't do a traditional theatrical rollout again. It's just like he went with what got him to the dance originally was just like a limited one,
Yeah.
but he took his ability to like control an audience and just like to have the spoken word shows, and it's like we're gonna do a fandom thing, and then we're gonna do live Q&As, and we're gonna make it like a tour,
Yeah.
and just sit there with the audience. And dude, like, I was telling you earlier, it's just like it must have been great to see that reboot live.
Oh, yeah.
With that audience, like
Yeah,
that.
I went to the one here, and the audience is so into it. I can see why he does it. I mean, not just for the fact that it sells out and it fills out, it's good, but there's so much love for like everything.
Yeah.
Anything that happens in the movie, there's a pop. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Crowd pops for anything, like any little joke. Oh, here's a little cameo. Yeah. Every little thing. And it's just like, how can you
Smart.
not, why would you not want to be in that environment?
Oh,
where
yeah.
the film you made that you worked incredibly hard on,
Yeah.
is just playing for an audience that is there to see that specifically.
Yeah.
Paid $50 to go see
Paid
it,
way more than they did for a movie ticket, right?
and they're loving every single joke you wrote.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
And it was like a 62 city tour.
Yeah.
That means 62 times you basically got a Road Warrior pop for every joke that you did.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can imagine that feeling was electrifying. So yeah, that's pretty much his film chronology. But what about the rumored Clerks 3? I feel like that's got to be creeping up around the corner, or just like I know pandemic kind of changed it, but how incredible is like the first movie, the one that got him to the dance, and now he's just going to make a trilogy that basically is like a bookmark in time. Like, here's these guys in their 20s, and
Yeah.
then we saw Clerks 2 and see them in their 30s, and now we're going to probably see them in their 40s to 50s on the third one. Like, what was that movie that was it Linkletter that?
Oh,
did
like
that?
Boyhood. This is
But
like
he did this is going to be like his Boyhood. That
no
is just
kidding.
like,
Yeah.
oh, like over.
Is this Oscar time for Kevin
Yeah,
Smith?
it's just like maybe this is his time. This is his Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King.
Yeah.
Right? That he's just going to start getting nominated because just like these are characters that have withstood the test of time.
Yeah.
Because I think it's going to make money. I think, and now he has the ability that he's just like, he's going to find a whole new generation of stoners / fans that will appreciate it. But now even more so because weed is legal in a lot of these states.
Right. And he's got like his own brand of weed, I think.
Oh yeah, it's just like that's pretty incredible, and it's just been an up and down, and basically, for him to have like a near death experience, right? And just like and then just revamp his life, and then he went through a lot of stuff with Jay Muse that is just like he went through a lot of troublesome hard times, and those guys went through some hard times to come out the other side, and now he's just basically directing films for a next generation of fans.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited to see kind of where his career, kind of evolves to now, because again, it's just like finding out that flavor of what the 90s was, and I realized that he was a big ingredient in that flavors of 90s film.
Yeah.
That indie filmmakers that inspired people. It's just like,
I think
you got a credit card, make a film.
No matter what, I think no matter what he does next, or no matter what movies have not gotten over, he was part of that 90s independent film movement.